Blessed are you, Lord our God, King of the universe. Blessed. Baruch atah Adonai. Alright, brothers and sisters, I've been trying to make videos since Monday, but I was so sick, and if you could hear my voice, you understand. I usually don't talk with candy or nothing in my house, but I have one of these, so forgive me. But there's a message I need to get out to you as soon as possible. For the past 16 months, I've been looking, and every time I think I've seen the possibility of the blessed hope of the return of Yeshua, I've made a video. But I think now this evidence is so overwhelming. And it's all been a trick of the enemy. Okay. I know some of you say, well, no, because nobody knows the day or the hour he's going to come as a thief in the night. Okay. 1 Thessalonians 5:2, that is, for yourselves know perfectly that the day of the Lord shall come as a thief in the night. That's verse 2. But if you read to verse 5, and I did a video, keep reading, it says, but you, brethren, are not in darkness, that this day should overtake you as a thief in the night. Okay. And also, Paul said, he goes, brethren, of this day and this hour, I do not need to tell you, because you know. So we know. I think all the information is right here. Jesus just wanted us to dig for it, okay, and find out these things. And he gave us plenty of clues, okay. Now, also, too, for Paul and all of them, they only had the Old Testament. So I've been really working more on the Old Testament. No, he gives us some clues in the New Testament. One of the first clues is he says it's going to be like the days of Noah. All right, let me show you something. Let's start in Genesis. Noah. Okay, Genesis 7. Okay, gives us a date. Genesis 7:11. And in the 600 year of Noah's life, on the second month, on the 17th day. Okay. Tishri is the first month. Tishri means, or Yom Teruah, okay, is the head of the month. Okay, or the head of the year, excuse me, head of the year. Okay. That's the fall feast where you have Yom Teruah, Yom Kippur, Sukkot, and Shemini Atzarat. We celebrated those already. Now, on November the 1st, we saw the sighting of the first slither of the new moon, making November the 1st, the first day of the second month. Okay? And if you see my calendar here, and I put in evening and day, and that you can look at Genesis 1, chapter 1 and 2. All of Genesis chapter 1, actually. And he says, and then there was evening and day, first day. Evening, so I've marked it already. Evening, day, first day. Evening, day, first. Okay. On the 10th, okay, I'm sorry. Here's the 17th. I got it in purple. I squared it off because he says on the second month, November, on the 17th day, that is when the fountains of the earth opened. Okay? In other words, God's wrath. But if you look at verse 4, it says after 7 days. So we got to take 17, subtract 7, and you get the 10th. That's why this day is nice and boxed in. Okay? So yesterday, because we're here today, here, it's Shabbat, the start of the Shabbat. And I put it in the middle of the day because according to Jerusalem time, where I am in the east coast of the United States, it's the middle of the day, noontime, is the beginning of their day. And that's the reason why I have it marked this way, okay? So like this, I look at it, I say, oh yeah, they're already in the evening. It's day such and such, okay? They're here. So they started their Shabbat. Okay? This is the first day after they're in the boat. Okay? But if you notice, it's a whole week. Okay? From the first day of unleavened bread to the last day of unleavened bread is a week. When you look at it, it says Jacob's trouble is a week. And he talks about the week of tribulation, okay? But even though we know those 7 days are actually 7 years of days. Okay. So what I'm going with this is because he says, as it was in the times of Noah. Now, we've always understood, you know, because of this or that, or he says they're fasting or this. No, it's because this is the time of Noah, the second month, 17th day. Now, we understand that in Exodus, what had happened was, Exodus 12:2, that we see, it says, This month shall be the beginning of the month, and it shall be the first month of the first year. Okay, so in what we call Nisan, or the Jews call Nisan, the first month of the year, or the first of the year, there's a spiritual year, and then there's a secular year, or that would be the beginning of the creation. The creation calendar, the first was in Nisan, excuse me, Tishri. The beginning of the month of the year was Tishri. But in Exodus, he flipped the calendar. And we kept thinking, he goes, could it be that we need to re-flip the calendar so it goes back to a Noah's calendar on the first of the year? Or the first, and then the second. And then we see, we see in Numbers. Now, in Exodus 12, we see how the instructions for the Passover, and we understand that. But we see in Numbers 9:11, and you could read all of Numbers 9:11. This is because this is the second year after. There was this, and it was this, on the second year after they had come out of Egypt. Now it was the 14th day of the first month, and they were getting ready to celebrate Passover. But there was a man that had to bury a brother. Now you need 7 days to purify yourself again, and so that you could partake of the Passover. Well, it hadn't been 7 days. Now, if you think about it, we have been dead in Christ, and if a day is as 1,000 years, it hasn't been 7 days. You can see my video about the second Passover. Okay, it hasn't been 7 days. It's only been 3. Okay, so. And also, if you were away from Israel. Well, we're not in Israel, okay? Away from the temple. And the temple isn't even there. Even if we were in Israel, we couldn't celebrate it because the temple is not there, okay? That this is the second Passover. And what happens is, he says, Moses says, he goes, well, let me go inquire of the Lord. And he comes back, he goes, that you could celebrate, he says, verse 11, and on the 14th day of the second month at twilight, you could keep the Passover. Guess what? The 14th day at twilight, okay, we could partake of the Passover. Now, you also see it in Chronicles, and you're going to ask me, well, what does this have to do with us, okay? Again, it's in my video, the second Passover. But let's go to Chronicles first, because this is the only other time other than that Numbers that this has ever had happened. And you could go to 2 Chronicles chapter 30. You could read verse 1, 2, but the key is in verse 2. It says, and the kings and his leaders and all the congregation in Jerusalem had agreed to keep the Passover in the second month. Okay, so it was done before. What had happened was not enough of the priests had been purified so for them to partake of the Passover. And then also too, if you read verse 3, continue on verse 3, and it says, and they could not keep it all at the time of this because of a sufficient number of priests had not sanctified themselves, nor had the people gathered at Jerusalem. That's a twofold. We are not finished being sanctified till we go up. 1. 2 is we're not all gathered in Jerusalem. Now, I believe Jerusalem is also the third heaven. Okay? Once we get gathered up, then we can partake of the second Passover. Because Jesus, on the night before, when he was betrayed, he was sitting doing the Passover with them. He said, I long to do the Passover with you all. But he took the fourth cup. He goes, I will not drink of this cup again till I drink it anew with you in my Father's house. Okay? Now, I think that we're going to have to, I believe, be up there before midnight at that. Okay? And that would be 12 o'clock noon Eastern Standard Time. Because what happens is, when the sun starts going down, they were supposed to take the blood. Read Exodus 12. Put the blood on the door. They go in and close the door. That's almost a picture of the brides. The 5 wise virgins go in and they close the door. When the other 5 virgins come to the banquet, this is no, you can't come in. Okay? This is fulfilling all of it, all of it. The second Passover, we can't do the first Passover. That was the one that he did with his disciples. Okay, the mirror of it was in Egypt. Our mirror of it is Second Chronicles. The fulfillment is for us to be doing this Passover with the Lord. And he says, when I drink this cup in my Father's house with you. Okay? Now, I think it's also very, very astounding. You can look at my 12 sign video of the Revelation 12, the sign of Revelation 12. But on this day, which is the same day as the flood started, okay, the constellation Jupiter goes into Virgo. The planet Jupiter, which is called the king planet, goes into the constellation of Virgo, which is the Virgin. Finally, the king is coming to the Virgin, okay? Then, on this day, the 23rd, I don't have it marked, on the 23rd of December, she becomes pregnant and gives birth to 40, the king planet is in her womb, retroactive, for 42 weeks, which is a perfect gestation period for a pregnancy. Gives birth on then September 23rd, 2017. Again, watch that video about the 12th sign. Okay, what I believe that 12th sign is. I believe that that's us. That we're finally going to go be with our king. And we are going to conceive, and what we conceive. You have to see the video, because I don't want to tell you the whole story. But anyways, I believe that this is a good time for the rapture. Now, I know it could be any time between the 14th and the 17th, because that's when he goes in, the king planet goes into the constellation of Virgo. Okay, but I think that has to do even before that. And if you look at it, from here to here is 1, 2, 3 days. Here's the day, the 14th, and then 1, 2, 3. That's a perfect menorah. Okay, the 14th day, that is the day that he's having the Passover with his people right here. Okay, and on this day, you can see the day that when was Jesus died, is when he would have died. They would be putting him in the tomb. He would have been on the cross that day, and before the sun goes down, he would be in the tomb. Now, also too, on that time, that's supposedly, if you look at Matthew's, that's a day that all the saints that were dead come out. But I think for some odd reason that we could be there for that second Passover to partake, like he said, of this cup in my Father's house. So keep yourself pure, keep yourself, in prayer, keep yourself pressing against God, keep praying and asking him to forgive you, repent. This is not a time to play, folks. This is it. I think that this is, if anything, no farther than here. Even though they're just saying it's anywhere between here and here, we have to keep an eye on it, because that's sorry, that's computer animated, and we have to see when it really goes into the constellation. That I believe that could be a very, very, if out of all the watch days that I've been watching for the past 16 months, this has got to be even the biggest of the biggest. And I thought I was I was pretty sure when it was the second Passover back in May. And I was even, my friend Nancy was like, but why did the Lord lead me to second Passover if it wasn't? I said, well, because maybe it fits somewhere else. And the only thing we could think is that we had to flip the calendar back to the calendar as the days of Noah. And the days of Noah's are the second month. That is Heshvan. All right, brothers and sisters. The Lord bless you and keep you, make his face shine upon you and be gracious unto you. The Lord lift up his countenance upon you and give you Shabbat peace. We'll see you at our Father's house. God bless.